Thank you for considering a career in social work here at the Kern County Department of Human Services. I'm Lito Morello, Director of the Department of Human Services. This video is designed to give potential job applicants like yourself a better perspective of the many different areas in which you can work in child welfare services. You will now have an opportunity to hear from some of our staff about what it's like to work here. I hope you enjoy hearing from the people who do this important job every day.
I was encouraged to apply years ago. I ended up in emergency response. Right away, I knew that this was my field. I felt like it was my calling. It was my purpose.
I got into social work because I just want to help people. I think it's a great spot to be able to not just help kids, not just help parents, but to be able to help the family as a whole. So making sure that they're successful and seeing what really their needs are and being able to connect them to outside resources and help them work through this process in order to be successful in the future.
I feel like there's so many opportunities in family services. Family services is one of the biggest programs, so I can't imagine myself getting tired of family services for a while.
The Kern County Department of Human Services serves the third largest county in California, with a population of almost 1 million residents. Our core purpose is to care for and enrich the lives of children, families, and individuals in our community. There are many areas at KCDHS in which social workers are employed. Today, we will hear about some of them. Emergency response, child and family team meeting, voluntary family maintenance, family services and family reunification, adoptions, and welfare to work.
The purpose and the role of emergency response is to ensure the safety and well-being of kids in the community. So if we come to a situation where we might identify that there might be some safety issues, we can work with families to try to mitigate those issues and keep kids in home. There are situations where, unfortunately, that can't happen, and for the safety of kids, we do have to take the next steps and intervene, which sometimes leads to removal of kids. Prevention is our number one key, and part of that is really having those in-depth conversations with family members of seeing what are the challenges that they're facing. And if there's any areas for improvement, to provide them services to mental health services, to substance abuse services for either the parent or the child, and try and bring stability to them. I remember, and I still remember, going to several homes, walking into those situations where families are struggling and connecting them to their resources, working really hard with engaging them to plant those seeds of safety for the kids. And for whatever time I'm working with them, I can see those seeds growing. I think that's what I fell in love with. That's what kept me here in emergency response for such a long time. That's why I'm choosing this as my career.
My specific role is a facilitator for child and family team meetings, which are also known as CFTMs. Purpose of those meetings, in a broad sense, is just to bring everyone together to the table, make sure everyone's heard, everyone has a chance to ask questions, voice any concerns that they have. The reason for the meeting, we have them for all types of reasons. We have them when we're bringing kids into care. We have them for updates or placement changes, or just to make sure that everyone has a chance to talk about things that are going on in the case. They leave the meeting with a very clear plan of what's going to happen next and who's going to do it and by when, so that everything that we talk about in the meeting, everyone can be held accountable for, and we can follow up and make sure that they did what they were asked to do. CFTMs are extremely important. There are not a lot of other forums where everyone can get together. There, of course, are visits where a couple people talk, or therapy appointments where a couple other people talk, but in order to get the whole entire team on the page with everyone that's working with the family, it doesn't happen other than in CFTMs, so they're extremely important. So the most challenging part about being a CFTM facilitator is that people already walk in the door with expectations and their own thoughts of how this meeting is going to go, when really the goal is to make sure that everyone is able to cooperate together. So sometimes emotions are high, sometimes people are concerned or confused or want to go in with a certain agenda, but our job as a facilitator is to make sure that we can all kind of be open-minded and let the conversation really focus on the kids and how they can do their best in their placement.
Voluntary family maintenance, VFM for short. We work with families that come to our attention through the abuse and neglect of a child, and then we, instead of lieu of court, we try to mitigate the circumstances and work with them on a voluntary basis. And by doing so, we keep the kids out of our foster care system. Court usually has a set case plan where it's classes, counseling, and components that are strict and by the book. Us, we do more behavior-based because it's time sensitive, so you don't want to like put the square peg in a round hole too long. You want to be able to deviate to a way that works for the family. That's the beauty of VFM is like you might have the same problem, which is substance abuse for a parent, but to get to that solution might be different for whoever you're working with. Child welfare has timelines, and timelines, once they come, you got to make decisions. Sometimes those decisions are to quit services and maybe the permanency of a child. So voluntary family maintenance is a great program to hit those timelines, but yet keep the family intact.
I work with children after they have been removed from their families and they've come into protective custody. We work with families on reunifying children by offering them services and by mitigating the concerns that brought them into protective custody. Visits are a very important component of family reunification. One of the main indicators if a family is going to successfully reunify is the ability for families not only, or for parents not only to visit, but for parents also to engage with the children in a very specific way while they're visiting. Our plan is not to be a permanent factor in our families' lives. Our plan is to be there for a short period of time and use that time as effectively as possible to provide all the education, all the services that are necessary. And visits are just a pivotal part because we actually get to see the parent interact with the child.
When children come into our care, our first goal is to help families safely reunite. When that isn't possible, we're looking for a permanent family for a child, and adoption is that next plan. Adoption social workers work with families who are interested in adopting children. Our goal when working together with both biological families and adoptive families is to ensure the safety, permanency, and well-being of each child in our care. If you're considering a career in social work, good organizational skills are a must. And you do need a lot of compassion and empathy. In my career as a social worker, I've worked with numerous families for many, many years. I've learned that using a strength-based approach helps bring out the best in people and encourages them to work with us. When you see children find a permanent and loving family, it can be one of the most gratifying things that you see.
So Welfare to Work is a program that we have here at the department. We provide community resources, employment services. Some of the ways that people would qualify for our program would be low income, maybe lack of education, which we can assist them with. It might be someone who has never had employment before. They don't know how to go through an interview, or they don't know how to fill out an application. Even people with disabilities, maybe they've applied for disability insurance, Social Security, and they haven't gotten it. Our programs can work with them when we actually assist. Our ultimate goal is for them and their children to be financially stable on their own, where they no longer need us anymore. I did have a mother, she was a single mom. She was going through a domestic violence situation and she ended up homeless and on the streets. She was evicted from her home. She wasn't able to pay the bills anymore, and so she came in, she was referred to our program. And her daughter was living with a neighbor inside the house, the neighbor's house, and mom was living in her car. So she was able to come through our program, she gained employment, she started working at a warehouse. We were able to assist her with getting into a motel, so her and her daughter were back together. She was able to find housing, we were able to assist her with that. Within a matter of probably 3 months, she was on her own and off of cash aid, doing great, going to school, attending counseling, employed, getting all this done on her own. So that's probably one of my favorite success stories.
I'm Maria Bermudez, Assistant Director of the Child Welfare Bureau of the Kern County Department of Human Services. The work of supporting and stabilizing families can be challenging. To be effective, you must have determination and a compassionate heart. I began my career at Jameson Children's Center, and I can tell you, the reward of seeing a family become stronger because you were able to help them is just life-changing. I hope this video has given you a better understanding of what social work is like, and that it inspires you to choose a career with the Kern County Department of Human Services.
Start your career in social work at the Kern County Department of Human Services. For more information, visit our website.